On the night of July 22, 2015, the peaceful city of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, was shaken to its core by one of the most brutal and horrifying crimes in its local history, the Bever family massacre. Two brothers, Robert and Michael Bever, carried out a cold-blooded knife attack, murdering their own parents and three younger siblings. The incident not only left the local community in shock, but was also recorded as the deadliest mass killing in the history of Broken Arrow, until another tragic murder-suicide occurred in October 2022, leaving 8 people dead. The actions of the two teenagers not only outraged the public, but also raised serious questions about the psychological, familial, and societal warning signs that may have been overlooked. The case played out like a real-life nightmare, where those who were supposed to be the closest became cold-blooded killers. Daniel Bever's final call and tragic end, a flicker of light in the darkness. Amid the chaos and bloodshed inside the Broken Arrow home, 12-year-old Daniel Bever did the unthinkable. He dialed 911 in a desperate attempt to save his family. That very call helped save the lives of his two younger sisters, Crystal, 13, and Autumn, 2, from the brutal knives of their own brothers. However, before he could finish the fateful call, Daniel was ambushed in his own room by the very perpetrators, his cold-blooded brothers Robert Bever, 18, and Michael Bever, 16. Tragically, he was killed, becoming one of the 5 victims of the horrific massacre. Despite her severe injuries, Crystal miraculously survived and later identified her own brothers as the attackers. Through her testimony, the veil of horror was slowly lifted, revealing a truth that shocked the entire nation. Police quickly apprehended Robert and Michael Bever. Both were charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of assault and battery with intent to kill. The final sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole, a verdict that reflected the sheer brutality and inhumanity of the crimes they committed. Robert Davis Bever, born September 17, 1996, and Michael John Bever, born November 4, 1998, 2 American brothers who were homeschooled, are currently serving life sentences without the possibility of parole for one of the most shocking family murders in the United States in the past decade. On July 22, 2015, the 2 carried out a gruesome massacre, murdering their parents and 3 younger siblings inside their family home in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. No one could have imagined that behind the facade of a peaceful family and a quiet homeschooling lifestyle, a bloody tragedy was silently taking shape. Raised in an isolated and tightly controlled environment, Robert and Michael spiraled into a darkness filled with twisted and extreme thoughts, ultimately turning their own home into the cold and merciless scene of a mass murder. Many of the Bever family's neighbors later shared that Robert and Michael's parents chose to homeschool their children and rarely allowed them to have contact with the outside world. The children were almost never seen playing outside or interacting with neighborhood kids, creating an eerie, unsettling silence that hung over the household. The family's extremely reclusive lifestyle left many neighbors stunned when the crime came to light. Some people didn't even know the full names of the family members until the medical examiner publicly released the victims' identities. After the tragedy, scattered fragments of memory from neighbors slowly pieced together into a chilling picture. They recalled that Robert and Michael had displayed strange, unstable, and at times disturbing behavior, but in the long-standing silence that surrounded the house, those warning signs went largely unnoticed. By the time anyone began to make sense of them, it was already far too late. According to Crystal Bever's testimony, her father, David Bever, frequently subjected the children to physical abuse and verbal humiliation. These allegations were also confirmed by Robert Bever, who claimed that both his father and mother were abusive, not just toward him, but toward all of his siblings. Robert also stated that their parents would often talk about people they hated and describe the apocalypse in the Bible as a deserved punishment for a world they deeply despised. The atmosphere within the family was described as isolated, extreme, and oppressive, a place where fear and resentment quietly grew over time. While these allegations in no way justify the brutal killings, they do shed light on a psychologically damaging environment, one that may have contributed to pushing Robert and Michael to the edge of committing such a horrific crime. Robert Bever fully confessed to the crimes, revealing that he and his younger brother had long planned the family massacre, intended only as the first step in a far larger mass murder plot. The two hoped to carry out a mass killing that would surpass both the 1999 Columbine massacre and the 2012 Aurora theater shooting, with the goal of shocking the entire nation. Robert also confessed that after murdering their family, they planned to dismember the bodies, place them in storage bins, and hide them in the attic. Then, they intended to steal the family car and begin a spree of random killings, with the goal of murdering at least 50 people. Robert went even further, admitting that he admired serial killers and dreamed of raising the death toll to 500 by carrying out attacks across the United States, far beyond the borders of Oklahoma. One more chilling detail: Robert had planned to record two versions of the murders, one showing the bodies, intended only for police and prosecutors, and another edited to hide the corpses, which he intended to publicly release online as a twisted trophy of their crimes. During the search of the Bever family home, detectives uncovered a terrifying arsenal: axes, knives, throwing stars, and surgical blades, all seemingly prepared for a massacre. They also seized wireless cameras, body armor, neck protectors, black masks, shin guards, as well as computers and phones. One detective revealed that Robert had once worked at a religious call center, not out of faith, but to earn money to buy knives, armor, ammunition, and guns. He confessed that the two brothers had secretly ordered body armor and stockpiled knives for months. Even more chilling, Robert admitted he had ordered ammunition, scheduled to arrive the very next day after the family was murdered. Around 11:30 p.m. on July 22, 2015, police received a frantic 911 call from 12-year-old Daniel Bever. In a panic, he reported that his older brother was attacking the entire family. During the call, the dispatcher could hear screaming, chaos, and a male voice before the line was suddenly cut off. Unable to reach the father, police were immediately dispatched to 709 Magnolia Court. When officers arrived, they found blood smeared across the front porch. A faint voice calling for help could be heard from inside, prompting them to break down the door. Inside, they discovered 13-year-old Crystal Bever, suffering from multiple stab wounds and severe blood loss. After rescuing her, they found Daniel along with 4 lifeless bodies, all deceased. Miraculously, 2-year-old Autumn Bever was found alive and unharmed. Crystal, though gravely injured, survived. She later told authorities that her 2 older brothers were the attackers. She said they lured her into a bedroom before suddenly slashing her throat and stabbing her repeatedly in the stomach and arms. She underwent emergency surgery and was able to survive. The other victims, both parents and 3 younger siblings, had all been fatally stabbed. At the scene, investigators recovered an array of weapons, including knives, axes, and other bladed objects, as well as protective gear. Some of these had been used in the attacks. Authorities believe the killers may have pretended to be under attack themselves to lure victims out before launching the assault. 5 people were killed in this horrific massacre, and 1 survived, though with severe injuries. A forensic examination concluded that all victims died from multiple sharp-force injuries sustained sometime between the night of July 22nd and the early morning hours of July 23, 2015. List of victims: David Bever, 54, father, stabbed at least 28 times in the torso, face, neck, arms, and hands. April Bever, 45, mother, died from blunt force trauma and over 48 sharp force wounds to the head, neck, torso, and arms. Daniel Bever, 12, younger brother. Stabbed 21 times in the back, shoulders, and chest. Christopher Bever, 7, older brother. Stabbed 21 times in the back, chest, shoulders, and legs. Victoria Bever, 5, younger sister. Died from 23 stab wounds to the neck, chest, back, and arms. Survivor? Crystal Bever, 13. Suffered a slashed throat and multiple stab wounds to her abdomen and arms. Despite the brutal attack, she miraculously survived. When police arrived at the scene, the two killers had already slipped out through the back door and fled into the wooded area behind the house. However, less than an hour later, at exactly 12:18 a.m., both were captured without resistance, thanks to the assistance of K-9 units. The two suspects were identified as Robert Bever, 18, the eldest son of David and April Bever, and his younger brother, Michael Bever, 16. They were found hiding under a bush, with Robert still carrying a knife at the time of arrest. During interrogation, one of the brothers accidentally revealed that their murder plan was stored on a flash drive hidden inside the house. Investigators returned to the home and recovered the flash drive, along with computers and surveillance cameras, some of which were placed near the bodies of 3 victims and may have recorded the entire massacre. Police later discovered that the brothers had planned to record 2 versions of the crime, one showing the bodies as evidence for law enforcement, and a second edited version without the corpses, which they intended to upload online. Both were charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of assault with intent to kill. On July 25th, authorities announced that Michael Bever would be tried as an adult. In Oklahoma, a conviction for first-degree murder can result in either life imprisonment or the death penalty. However, Michael Bever was spared the death penalty because he was under the age of 16 at the time of the murders. Neither of the brothers has ever shown remorse or apologized for what they did. Michael's attorney objected to him being tried as an adult, arguing that a life sentence was essentially the same as a death sentence. He claimed that Michael should have the opportunity for rehabilitation, especially if he had suffered abuse at home, though no evidence of domestic violence within the Bever household was ever found. During the investigation, police discovered a shipment of 3,000 rounds of ammunition that had been delivered to the Bever home on July 23rd, just 1 day after the massacre. Authorities also began analyzing Robert Bever's social media accounts for additional clues. On July 6, 2016, it was revealed that Robert had attempted to commit suicide in jail by hanging himself with a bedsheet. The incident occurred on June 17th and was discovered in time by a staff member during a routine check. Robert was unharmed and was later transferred to a suicide watch unit for closer monitoring. The house at 709 Magnolia Court in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, the scene of a shocking family massacre, was abandoned after forensic investigators completed their work. Several walls had been torn down to the foundation, as much of the home was deemed a biohazard zone. The property's value plummeted due to its horrific history. Locals began referring to it as Broken Arrow's Amityville Horror House. With its dark roof and eerie appearance, the house quickly became a magnet for ghost hunters, curious teens, vandals, and fans of dark tourism. In February 2017, the city of Broken Arrow announced plans to raise funds to purchase the house, with the intention of demolishing it and replacing it with a memorial park called the Bever Family First Responder Memorial Park. However, before the plan could be carried out, the house burned to the ground in a fire on March 18, 2017. 2 years later, on March 27, 2019, the site was officially reopened as Reflection Park. A winding path now runs through the grassy lot where the Bever family home once stood, transformed into a peaceful memorial space honoring the lives lost. Robert and Michael Bever first appeared in court on August 3rd, where both pleaded not guilty to all murder charges. Their preliminary hearing was postponed multiple times, originally scheduled for October 28th, then moved to October 9th, later to January 22, 2016, and finally held on February 23, 2016. On August 5th, Judge Bill Mussman ordered the release of court documents related to the case. These were made public the following day, with sensitive information redacted to protect the identities of the victims. On September 7, 2016, Robert Bever pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus 1 additional life sentence. Michael Bever's trial began on April 16, 2018, and concluded on May 9th with a guilty verdict. On August 9, 2018, he was sentenced to 5 life sentences without parole. On July 15, 2019, Robert Bever made headlines again after he attempted to attack 2 correctional officers at Joseph Harp Correctional Center. The incident occurred at 4:36 p.m. in a common room. As a result, Robert was given 3 more life sentences on November 17, 2020, bringing his total to 9 life sentences. Robert Bever is currently incarcerated at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary, while Michael Bever is serving his sentence at the Lexington Correctional Center. The Bever family massacre not only shook the quiet community of Broken Arrow, but also became one of the most tragic family murders in modern American history. 2 brothers who should have been loved and protected turned out to be the very ones who brutally ended the lives of their parents and 3 innocent siblings. The house where it all happened is now gone, replaced by a peaceful public park. But the trauma of that horrific night still lingers in the memories of those who survived, in a community scarred forever, and in the pages of crime history that will never be forgotten.